Let's talk about Carlton, gentlemen. They're always a hot topic of conversation, and we have Chris Davies who will join us on the boundary line very shortly. Sam?
I think Carlton have a big 3 months ahead of them, not just with the circumstances surrounding their embattled coach, Michael Voss, also the circumstances surrounding their captain and his vice-captain, Patrick Cripps and Jacob Weitering, both of whom I think will entertain offers from other clubs at the end of the season. The list transformation has accelerated to a point where I think it's probably become out of control for the club. Charlie Curnow demanding to leave last year, Jack Silvani demanding to leave last year, Tom de Koning, I think you have to feel a little bit of empathy for the Blues, given he was offered one of the biggest deals in the history of the game. They are going to look to bounce as quickly as possible, and I think that there is my understanding is that there is a view inside Carlton that this current group is not going to take them where they thought. I don't think that's splitting the atom in any way. I don't think that would come as a surprise to many Carlton supporters. I think Patrick Cripps will entertain offers from both West Australian clubs. He's out of contract at the end of next year. The Weitering situation is a more interesting one, given that he has 5 more seasons after this, having signed a huge deal at the end of 2024 when the St Kilda Footy Club
why is Weitering a discussion? I think a lot of people can draw the line for Patrick Cripps. They might agree or disagree, but I think they could understand why, being a Western Australian, the point of his career, all that sort of stuff, you get some pretty strong suitors straight away, particularly West Coast, where they are at, and they could do with someone like Patrick Cripps. Now, they'll say still not going to happen, but why the Weitering one in that space? Like key defenders are hard to find. Vice captain, all that sort of stuff. So much time left on his contract. Why is he part of sort of that group?
I've spoken to a lot of people in and around this situation. The feeling around Jacob Weitering is that he has given his left arm for this footy club under duress for a large amount of time, and I don't think there'd be too many people that would disagree with that. He has defended admirably for many, many a season. In the face of great adversity and in the face of a lot of inside 50s against. I think in the last month, and it's been highlighted by, I think, both of you gentlemen on different platforms, as well as many others, including Lee Montagna on Fox Sports, the vision of what we have seen of Jacob Weitering in the last month is not the vision that we had seen in the previous few years. Matthew Lloyd, would that be accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate. And he may feel it's because he's in a side that never wins and is under the pump, so he can't be as offensive as he wants to be in that team. But
maybe he's just given as much as he can give, Lloyd.
But what you did say before, you said they want to bounce quickly.
Yep.
Well, I don't think. How do you bounce quickly if you've the players that have just left? And then you go Cripps and Weitering. I think that maybe it is what's best for them to rebuild a list of, that there's a lot of list cloggers there. There's, from young ones that have come in, they say we've got 2 good quality young ones in Dean and Smith, and we try and get, we get Walker, plus we try and get more to start the rebuild.
O'Farrell coming back from his knee.
But it's not going to be a quick bounce if they let those 2 go. It's going to be a long time.
Do you know what, though, Lordo? Not many, but a few people would have said the same thing about Melbourne when they let Oliver and Petrarca go.
Look, they've got Gawn and Pickett.
Yep.
That who's their Gawn and Pickett?
Yeah, but I think their system has changed more than anything. And you're right. They don't have a Gawn and Pickett. I mean, their Gawn and Pickett were de Koning and Curnow, really.
Now that there's official rules regarding NGA's father-sons, has this fast-tracked?
I think it's changed the conversation. I think it's a great question. I mean, I don't want to bore the people out there who find the draft concession rules and the changes confusing. And trust me, I find them confusing. So if I do, fair chance that some other people do. If Carlton were to get a top 10 pick in the door for either Weitering or Cripps, it really helps mitigate the loss of a bid for Cody Walker early doors. If Carlton finish 3rd or 4th last, you can almost guarantee that Richmond or Essendon or West Coast will get a bid on Walker / Cochrane for Port Adelaide, the NGA. Father-son. If they get another one in, it means that they're able to draft Walker where they think that he's worth, plus get another top line pick in. Now, you got to remember, clubs are desperate to get as many high-end picks in now before Tasmania comes in, if they come in. So it's becoming really important. And I think Carlton, who will almost certainly be under a new coach at the start of next year, but this is where it becomes interesting, Jimmy and Lordy, because you'd almost guarantee that you'd want the new coach's thoughts on what you're going to do, right? And yet we're talking about this and round 9 hasn't even started. So for me, Carlton have shot themselves in the foot with the weak decision that the chief executive and the board made at the end of last year by backing Michael Voss in. They've backed themselves into a corner here.
Could they have a new coach, Carlton, before round 24? Like,
yes.
Could we? Yeah, so
they could.
Because I don't think a club, I can't remember the last time I've heard that, there's an interim, but who the coaches might have been signed. But it would certainly help if I've spoken about the treading of water at Carlton and what it would do for so many players at Carlton if they got aggressive and they made the call and there's a pathway forward with a new coach being able to speak to, whether it is an assistant who they love or who walks away from his club with at round 15.
Or it's a Longmire or a Hinkley.
And they allow him to sit there and watch, whether it was a James Kelly, for example, or whoever it was, or any of those who's just sat there and watched Carlton operate for 6 or 7 rounds. And then he came in and hit the ground running from day one, who he knows how players train, how players act, how they carry themselves. Might be a faster way of fast-tracking a team for next season.
We're very fortunate when clubs give us great access to their talent, and the person we've got on the boundary line right now is Carlton's GM of footy, Chris Davies. Good evening, Chris.
Talent might be a stretch, Jimmy, but I'm happy to be here.
You are a talent, Chris. We wish you all the best tonight. Look, we're going to jump straight into it. There's lots to get through. First and foremost, the findings have been handed down from the AFL. In your eyes and Carlton Football Club, is the Elijah Hollands investigation closed?
I mean, from our perspective, at an AFL sense, yes. The AFL have handed down what they have. We've made the decision to move on in order to move on for our people, really. So, yeah, AFL-wise, absolutely.
I got the sense, Chris, good evening to you, that from the statement from the club that they weren't particularly happy with the findings of the AFL. Would that be accurate?
Not necessarily, Sam. I think it was more. Our statement was more about supporting the people involved, and I'm thankful from the department's perspective that both Rob Priestley, our president, and Graham Wright, our CEO, were really clear in supporting the medical team on the day, and in wanting to support the department more broadly into the future.
So I guess, Chris, and I'm sure you would have had this question a million times in your head over the last 2.5 weeks, but the question that every footy fan, every Carlton fan seems to want to know the answer to is, did anyone notice something wrong with Elijah before the game?
Well, I think, Sam, with absolute respect to you asking that question, the club's been really clear in the want to move on, and I accept that you want to know the answer to that. The club's position has been clear from that point on, and that is that we don't have any more to add right now. We don't think it's appropriate to add any more, and on that basis, the group are going to try and move forward.
Well, can I try one more? And it's not from finding out information regarding Carlton, but did you get information from the AFL that they had in the awareness from the ARC?
Look, again, Jimmy, I appreciate the want for people to know the detail of it. I think both the AFL and the club have made the decision to say, let's move forward. There was a whole heap of information that is part of this that were part of the AFL's discussions, and I don't think much of it is appropriate to reach the public domain, given the personal nature of some of the information.
Well, with continuing the theme of moving forward, one of the AFL's things that they want in place is full-time psychologists to prevent this situation happening in the future. A number of coaches have come out and said the difficult nature of finding, firstly, the niche of finding a psychologist who fits perfectly into an AFL system, and then, of course, the cost. Is this going to be a difficult thing from your point of view, that you've got to add this to your football department, the cost, and then finding the right people?
I definitely think it's a challenge, Jimmy, in the sense that most of the psychs are wanting to work in their own clinic outside of the AFL, and on that basis, how many people have got the time to commit full time? I think probably the best way to think about it is if the AFL want full-time staff, it's more of a full-time equivalent, and maybe there needs to be multiple people working in the department from here on in. But 0.6 is what the AFL have had up to this point. Clearly that's going to change into the future, but I think it's a reasonable question you ask in terms of wanting the best people that you can possibly get. and those people generally, in my experience, 10 years worth of it, are wanting to do something else outside of footy as well. So how we balance those times, I guess, it will be the challenge into the future.
Yep. Hey, Chris, Matthew Lloyd, good luck tonight. How does Michael Voss sell and explain to the board and you guys as head up of the football department the second halves? Because I know there's everyone listening at home, we don't get a great clear answers coming out of Carlton. Like, we all have our views and thoughts on why it happens, but how does Michael himself explain it to you?
Well, I mean, I think that the challenge for us this year, as you've said, has been short periods of time in the game, but the reality is when we're not getting ascendancy from a stoppage perspective, we're not able to move the ball as well as we need to from the back half, and so stoppages are going against us and field position is going against us. We haven't been good enough to this point to be able to address that, and that's clearly where the game's going. We need to continue to work on that. That's not just stoppage, because for the majority of the game our stoppage stuff is going well, but there are periods of the game where it goes horribly, right? And we need to be better at fixing momentum there, but also swinging some new bodies through there. If the group can't get it done, then we've got to keep thinking about ways that we can skin that cat. But as I say, part of it is clearance, but I think a significant part is our transition game, and that needs to be better.
Chris, just further to Lloydie's point, there's a lot said about Carlton every single week. You're one of the big clubs, but do we have any of the narrative wrong about Carlton? Is there something that we're missing or we're not understanding, maybe age or profile, or you're doing something that we're just not picking up? Is any of the narrative wrong about the Blues?
Which part of the narrative, Jimmy? There's a fair bit of narrative flying around, mate. You can ask me the specifics.
Well, what bothers you the most then?
What bothers me the most? Our transition game bothers me the most. So right now, as much as our club has been very good for a period of time at stoppage and clearance type stuff, we haven't got the transition game in order right now. Now, if you're talking about our list profile, clearly as a team that's 1-7, that's not where we want to be, and on that basis, you've got to be willing to be critical of every part of what you're doing. And I accept that after 8 rounds, our performance hasn't been good enough. We've got to work for the remainder of the season to try and put some things in place for the future.
Is the group devastated at the moment, Chris?
I think that is one area where I've actually been amazingly, I guess, surprised at how well Michael has kept the group together through this period. I think certainly that will be challenged ongoing if we're continuing to perform the way that we are. But I think Michael deserves great credit given where the team is at, that the team are still having a decent amount of enjoyment about trying to get better, albeit the results haven't been where we want them to be.
Do you need to make a decision on Michael before the season's out for a number for your current players, keeping players, selling the future of why players should stay at Carlton?
Look, I think, Matthew, that will clearly be a discussion from the commentators. My role right here, right now, is to provide as much support to Michael as I possibly can for this game here, and he knows, he's a realist, that our performance needs to get better, and he's working really hard to get that done, and I give him great credit for his want to make our team better.
Chris, as the NGA or the draft rules, the father-son, the fact that they brought them in, clubs were waiting, and then they happened, and they're happening pretty much straight away. Has it changed or sped up any plans there at Carlton?
Well, as you say, Jimmy, we've got Cody Walker, who is committed to us, and we're certainly committed to him coming in. I think the discussion with regard to the draft rules and what happens from a Northern Academy perspective is less, needs to be less about the clubs that are facing some challenges because of it, and that is us, and that's my former club in Port Adelaide, and more about whether it's appropriate for the AFL to be making changes to the draft 5 months out from the draft when the clubs have not had any time to prepare for it. So, yes, of course, Carlton is impacted, But I think into the future, we should be asking the question, is it appropriate to make these changes, whatever changes they might be in the future? And of course, knowing the AFL, these things will change into the future. Is it appropriate to only give the clubs 4 or 5 months to prepare? Now, we've tried to prepare as best as we possibly can, albeit we didn't know what the rules were going to be. And I think we've done as well as we possibly could last year. But it's hard when everyone starts to talk about which club is affected to actually get the proper argument out. And as I say, yes, we are affected. But I think the bigger question that you should all be asking is it appropriate to change rules that are significant as this only 5 months before the actual date?
Last one from me, Chris. How is Elijah doing?
No, he's getting better every day, and that's something that he has. He and I have been in contact with, and I'm pleased that that's the case.
It's good news.
It's great to hear, Chris. We really appreciate your time. All the best tonight.
Good on you, fellas. Thank you.